Good evening and welcome once again to yet another session of Praying with the Bible, Psalms for Life. We thank you for the continuous feedback that you give us, things that you like, things that you make as suggestions, and keep them coming because it gives us a sense that you feel connected with us just as much as we are connected with you. We are in it together because God's word has to be shared as much as with us, with you, as well as you with us. So keep your suggestions, your affirmation, whatever, keep it coming so that together we will praise God for the marvels of His beauty of His word. Today I continue with Psalm 31. We did the first session, which dealt with the first part. And we now continue with the rest of the psalm. But for those who might be tuning in for the first time to this psalm, as well as a recap for those who have already been part of the first session, I'd like to quickly run through this particular psalm as a lead-in to the rest of the psalm today. This psalm, or the psalmist, is really trying to capture a situation that we can find not just in his time, but in our world today. For example, we go through a lot of stress, burden, things that weigh us down in life. And he speaks of a situation where he's attacked by a group of enemies who slander, gossip, speak bad about him. As a result, his own neighbors, his own acquaintances walk away from him. And so externally, he feels the weight of it all. Internally, he's grappling with his own inner struggles, his sin, his behavior, his own attitudes, and he feels the burden of guilt. Externally and internally. And so there could be a number of us who can identify with a part or perhaps the entire psalm. If I were to give a title to this psalm, it is, "Into your hands I commit my spirit." That's verse 5 of this psalm, which we looked at the last time. In fact, I left you with some homework. I'd asked you to just reflect as what are the things that we need to let go and surrender into God's hand. And we'll come back to it towards the end of the session. But again, quickly, I would just like to take you through the structure of the psalm. If you remember, it was a 7-part structure. The first is an invocation to God, which states the confidence and the trust that he has in this God. And then we have 3 sets of 2 pairs. Praise and confidence is the first one which we announced, but the pairs include petition and lament and praise and confidence. So we begin with the praise and confidence in verse 1. Then we have the 3 sets, petition and lament, verses 2 to 4, followed by a praise and confidence in verses 5 to 8. This is where we stopped last time. Now we will continue with the rest of the psalm, which is the second pair, which is petition and lament, that is verses 9 to 13. Then the praise and confidence, which is verse 14. And then there's the last set that we have, petition and lament, which are verses 15 to 18. And it concludes with the praise and confidence in verses 19 to 24. This is what we have looked at the last time. So it's important for us now to continue from where we left off, which takes us to verses 9 to 13. That's the second set of petition and lament, and then followed by the praise and confidence. So I'm going to look at petition and lament, which is verses 9 to 13, where the psalmist prays to God for his strength, the grace, and protection. So verse 9, "Be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am in distress." The psalmist is calling God to be gracious, extend God's grace. The word in Hebrew is hanan. In fact, the word grace is Anna, Anne, Yohanan, John are all words that capture grace in their names. And God's grace is freely given. It's not earned, it's not merited, it's not deserved. It's God's free gift, and God is more than willing to give this gift. And so the psalmist is making his petition to God, "Be gracious to me, for I am in distress." And what's the distress that he is going through? That is well described in the verses that follow. "My eyes waste away from grief, my body, my soul and body also, for my life is spent with sorrow, and my years with sighing. My strength fails because of my misery, and my bones waste away." He's talking of his physical condition. He's defining his distress. His entire person, his entire being is suffering. His eye, his soul, his body. In other words, his physical suffering, his emotional suffering, and added to that, it's sorrow. If that is internal suffering, he's also facing external suffering. And that's captured by verse 11. "I am the scorn of all my adversaries, a horror to my neighbors, an object of dread to my acquaintances. Those who see me in the street flee from me." He's painting such vivid pictures of the sense of rejection, isolation, oppression, you might say, at the hands of all those around him. If the previous verse was about the internal, interior pain, this one is external, the exterior. Adversaries, enemies, his foes who look down on him. He becomes a horror to his neighbors. Can you imagine that? A dread to his acquaintances, and the rest of them just run away. Have you ever felt like that? All alone. The psalmist is pouring out his soul to God. His sense of being rejected, almost to the point of death, because as the next verse, verse 12 says, "I have passed out of my mind like one who is dead. I have become like a broken vessel." There is a kind of an internal death, as though something has died within. Numb. It's lost all sense of feeling. The people around him treat him as though he just does not exist. Because when you are cut off from relationships, cut off from the community, you are cut off from life. Sadly, this is a reality that we face in society, sometimes in our own homes and families. We are like zombies in some families. We go through the motions of living, but there is no life at all. You are alone in the crowd, alone in the family, almost like a living dead. Some of our homes and families are like a morgue. Cold, distant. You can live under the same roof, sit at the same table, and not even talk to each other, except perhaps to abuse. This psalmist is describing his own situation, And you might say, the situation that some people are undergoing, particularly in this time of lockdown, or when there's restricted movement. I have become like a broken vessel. That is something equivalent today, like you would have this throwaway cups and throwaway plates. Once you throw away, don't even think about it. See the word pictures that he's showing, the language that he's expressing of his interior pain. Verse 13, for I hear the whispering of many, terror all around, as they scheme together against me, and they plot to take my life. Whispering. They're talking about him in whispers. In other words, they ignore him, but if at all they notice him, it is to cause further pain, harm to this person through their gossip, their slander, their calumny, fake news, we would call it, exaggeration, bearing false witness. How much of it we see even today? We talk not to the person, we talk about the person. We talk not on their face, but behind their back. And this psalmist is describing an all too real experience of today. They scheme together against me. They plot to take my life. Not just a chit-chat. They scheme and they plot. Because that ruin and that destruction is something that they ruthlessly want to go ahead. And some people lose their humanity in the process by the way they treat one another. Sometimes in their own family, their brothers, sisters, in-laws, neighbors. What we hear in this verse is also echoed in other parts of the Bible. In Isaiah chapter 53, verse 3, or generally what we call the suffering servant song in Isaiah, we see of this person despised by the others, looked at with scorn. The psalmist is describing an experience that is universal. In Jeremiah chapter 20 verse 3, we have the precise, there is terror all around. Victims of vicious plots and schemes. That was also the experience of Jesus at the time of his own passion and death. As I said, this is a universal experience that goes across time, ages, cultures, languages. Have you in your life gone through something like this? Have you felt the pain of being attacked from outside, but also from within? But we must also ask, have you been responsible for causing this kind of pain on others? By the way you treat them, the way you put them down, as though they're not human persons at all. There are some who are very conscious of it, who have a sensitive conscience. But sadly, there are others who have killed their conscience and feel absolutely nothing wrong in dehumanizing the other person. This psalmist addresses these different categories of persons. It is painful for those who are undergoing this, and it is evil for those who are responsible for causing this. And the psalmist lays it out bare, because this is his petition, this is his lament. And then he follows it up with that section of praise and confidence, a single verse in this case, verse 14. But I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. After laying on this whole litany of what he's suffering, going through, feeling all alone, he makes that powerful proclamation of trust. Because he's saying, no matter how strong that attack, even stronger is my trust. He's saying, it is in all of this, I am in God's hand, and there is no safer place to be. For as he says, you are my God. That's the language of the covenant. I will be your God, and you will be my people. This psalmist lays claim to that promise of God. So no matter what the attacks are, from outside, from within, he says, my trust is in you, for you are my God. And we need to do the same when we feel the sense of threats, attacks, put downs, the demeaning attitudes of others. This becomes a cry of strength, a cry of hope. Our security is not in others, not in power, not in wealth, not in influence, not in the clout we have, but simply in the Lord our God. He moves now into the next and the final pair that we have, petition and lament. Verses 15 to 18, where the psalmist prays to be delivered from the enemies. Verse 15, my times are in your hand. Deliver me from the hand of my enemies and persecutor. He makes a contrast between God's hand and the hand of the enemies and persecutors. We are back into the petition and lament. Hand, as I said earlier, reveals the total trust, the power, authority of God. And he wants and he prays to be delivered, to be rescued, to be ransomed, to be redeemed. And only God can do that. Should this not be our prayer as well? Verse 16, let your face shine upon your servant. Save me in your steadfast love. What a beautiful Hebrew phrase. Let your face shine upon us. In fact, that's the prayer, the blessing of Aaron that we have on New Year's Day. It's a reading that comes to us from the book of Numbers, chapter 6, 25. Let your face shine upon us, Lord. And this psalmist is talking about, because we see this great contrast between light and darkness. And the light of God draws us to God's deepest being. It will come to us in different ways, by the way we care about others, by a sense of justice, by our life of prayer. But there could also be darkness in our life due to evil habits, addictions, a circle of companions, indifference to others, coldness to God. That leaves us in darkness. But he says these beautiful words, save me in your steadfast love. The word steadfast love, as we've seen earlier in Hebrew, chesed, means God's loving kindness, his faithfulness forever. It comes almost like a refrain all through the psalm and through many of the rest of the psalms. He continues with his petition, with his lament. Do not let me be put to shame, O Lord, for I call on you. Let the wicked be put to shame. Let them go dumbfounded to Sheol. So he says, not shame for me, let it be shame for them. Let them be embarrassed. Let them experience the disgrace. I don't want, because I call on you. Because these are the people who seek to attack God and seek to attack God's people. He says, let them be dumbfounded, struck silent. Verse 18, let the lying lips be stilled that speak insolently, against the righteous with pride and contempt. One thing that we find in the scriptures, and particularly in the Gospels as well, is how strongly Jesus comes against arrogance and pride. The sad thing is, we see it consistently in society today, and sadly, even in the church. Because arrogance does not come from the scriptures, it does not come from the heart of God, it does not come at all from the life of Jesus. And that's why consistently, to be an arrogant person reveals that God has no place in your life. People who are proud and haughty are so full of themselves that there is no room for God. And the psalmist is so upset, he's asking God to settle them, to fix them, to bring them low. And that brings us to the last section, Psalm of Praise and Confidence, verses 19 to 24. Verse 19, how abundant is your goodness that you have laid up for those who fear you and accomplished for those who take refuge in you in the sight of everyone. Look at the language of trust and confidence. Abundant goodness. There's nothing miserly and stingy about God. Look back at the times where you have experienced the goodness of God. It just does not drop from the heavens. It comes through people. It comes through situations. It comes through events. How have you experienced God's abundant goodness? When? How? Through whom? God's goodness is generous. Or as we say in our Redemptorist language, with Him is plentiful redemption. The graciousness of God. In the shelter of your presence, you hide them from human plots. You hold them safe under your shelter from contentious tongues. In other words, when you are with God, He is your rock, your refuge, your protection, your fortress. Blessed be the Lord, for He has wondrously shown His steadfast love to me when I was beset, even as a city under siege. That word, steadfast love, chesed in Hebrew, consistently comes because that is who God is. And we need to believe it. The psalmist is coming back again and again so that we will know it not only in our heads, but in our hearts. God's steadfast love, His loving kindness. Blessed, and then verse 22. I had said in my alarm, I am driven from your sight, but you heard my supplications when I cried out to you for help. In other words, God hears our cry. We think that God should respond the way we want God to respond. Once we put it in His hands, we allow Him to do as God knows best. And then the last two verses. Love the Lord, all you His saints. The Lord preserves the faithful, but abundantly repays the one who acts haughtily. Be strong and let your heart take courage, all you who wait for the Lord. He ends on a note of triumph with the direction, be strong and let your heart take courage, all you who wait for the Lord. In Hebrew, as in many other languages, the word to wait is also the same word for hope. So it's not about waiting alone, it's hope as well. We have that beautiful prayer at Mass, as we wait in joyful hope for the coming of our Savior, Jesus Christ. So as we come to the end of this psalm, dear friends, what can we learn from it? There is an alternation between petition and lament, and then trust and confidence. We have three sets of that, and that's precisely what we have looked. But that is the cycle of life. In moments of pain and difficulty, we have this petition, we have this lament. But it's the faith that gives us that trust and that confidence. And if there's one line that I would like to insist that we can take from the psalm is, into your hand I commit my spirit. I commend my spirit. I entrust my life. Are we willing to do it? Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's a struggle. Sometimes we resist and refuse because we think if we give it for God to act, He might act in a way that's going to be detrimental or bad for me. But that's if our image of God is negative. But if we know that this is a God who knows me best, who can see the bigger picture, once I leave it in God's hand, I know that He will do what is best for me, simply because of His steadfast love. True faith is the ability that God gives us through His grace to surrender, to let go, and to let go into God's hand. I left you yesterday with what do you want to leave into God's hand? I want to quickly indicate some ways, so maybe meditatively, prayerfully, let us do this. If it will help by closing your eyes, so be it. What you could do is visualize, with your eyes closed, that Jesus seated before you with His hands placed open before you. And you put your hand into His hand. And what is it that you want to release from your life? That you want to say, into your hand, I commend this, that, this person, that issue, that situation. Let me offer some of them to you. So prayerfully, with your eyes closed, visualize Jesus before you with His hand stretched out. What do you want to put into the hand of Jesus? Your health, that you may take care of it, not be obsessed by it. The current situation of the virus and the pandemic, that you'll take the precautions but not be paranoid about it. The fights in your family, misunderstanding, put it there, so that it'll bring a change in the others but you yourself to be an instrument of peace. Maybe an indifference to the faith for yourself or your children or those dear to you. And by putting your hand, you're saying, give me once again the joy of believing. Maybe a sickness that is terminal, and you're leaving it into the hands of God so that your inner peace will not be destroyed. Maybe the death of a loved one whom you miss terribly, but now you put consciously into the hands of God because there is no safer place to be. Because when we put something in God's hand, we do it freely, not because we have no option, no choice, because it is a reminder when God is in charge, He works out what is best. When we say into your hands, we are saying we want the deliverer, not just deliverance. We want the creator, not just created things. We want the giver, not just the gifts. And once we let go into God's hand, we will feel a sense of peace, a joy, and God's presence in a way we've not known before. And redemption, it's what we call redeeming grace, redeeming presence. And we will experience the fullness of that at the time of our death. For now, just a foretaste of God's redeeming presence in our lives. And so I'd like to end with verse 5. Into your hands I commit my spirit. You have redeemed me, O Lord, faithful God. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Thank you for joining us for this session on the second part of Psalm 31. May this word that we have pondered on, reflected on, be the source of energy and the source of life, so that we will be connected with God's healing love, His steadfast love, which is forever. Good night, and God bless you all.
Great and mighty is the Lord our God. Great and mighty is He. Great and mighty is the Lord our God. Great and mighty is He. Lift up the banner, let the anthem ring. To Christ our King. Great and mighty is the Lord our God. Great and mighty is He.